Miami's recruiting class is currently ranked 19th overall, but could they be closing in a top 10 ranked class by the end of this weekend? Two of Miami's top targets at positions of need are both making their announcement on Saturday. The number 2 defensive lineman in America, 5-star David Stone, and the number 3 ranked safety in America, 4-star Zaquan Patterson, will be both announcing on Saturday. Now, Miami's recruiting has been a little stagnant this summer. There's been some big gets like a Marquise Lightfoot, but also a lot of misses. Let's bring on Stephen Wagner of Kane Sport. Stephen, let's start with David Stone, the 5-star defensive lineman at IMG Academy. He's narrowed his list to a final 3: Oklahoma, Michigan State, and Miami. What has Miami done to be among one of his 3 finalists?
Yeah, well, first off, Miami's throwing the kitchen sink at David Stone. They are going to leave it all on the table for this prospect, whose value, frankly, has only increased as Miami has been left out on so many different defensive linemen's recruitments and commitments. You look at Kamarion Franklin last week, who committed to Ole Miss. You look at Justin Scott, who committed to Ohio State earlier in the summer. That's only driven David Stone's value up as Miami searches for those really elite defensive linemen. Now, last year was kind of the year of the offensive line for Miami. This year was kind of supposed to be the year of the defensive line, where Miami really had its sights set on a lot of really elite, top-tier, blue-chip defensive linemen and edges, and they got a lot of these guys down to campus repeatedly during the spring for the spring game, and then over the summer for official visits. But things just haven't quite panned out yet, which, as I said a second ago, has made David Stone that much more valuable to the Canes. So Miami is going to leave it all on the kitchen table. They are going to throw everything they can at David Stone. Right now with Saturday coming up, David Stone is an absolutely massive priority for Miami.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the supply keeps dwindling of quality defensive linemen, but demand keeps going up. So that's only going to drive up the value, the importance of a David Stone to Miami right now. So I would kind of consider Miami the dark horse in all of this, right? Like Michigan State was maybe the favorite early on. Oklahoma been the consistent team. And then you got Miami, who has missed on a couple guys, and they do need defensive line help desperately. This was a big year for that. So what do you make of Miami's chances as we're just about 48 hours out? Let me set the scene. Summer's coming to an end. You've spent the last 2 or 3 months just laid up on the beach enjoying the sun. But now football season is right around the corner, and you can't find tickets anywhere. It sounds like a nightmare, but don't let this be the way that your season starts. That's why I'm here to tell you about Game Time. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets online for all the big-time matchups. Game Time will get you to this year's biggest college football games with elite deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee. Don't stress over getting into your favorite team's season opener or the biggest rivalry game of the year. There's only so many big games, and you need to get these tickets at the best prices. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. That's out. Game Time has deals and tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets on all the sports and entertainment events. You can even use this on concerts. Use Game Time to get $20 off your first concert. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. So here's what we're going to do. Snag the tickets without stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off your first purchase. Create an account, use promo code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Terms apply. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
I think Miami has definitely done a good job to close the gap, maybe from what it was. A few weeks ago, someone actually asked me this on a message board. A few weeks ago, I probably would have said, it's probably 80% Oklahoma or maybe 75% Oklahoma and maybe somewhere in the range of 15 to 20% Miami. But I think that gap has closed a little bit over these last couple weeks. If I was a betting man, I would probably put some money on the Sooners over Miami. But that being said, I think the Canes have done a really good job to close that gap here. I'd say maybe if I had to put a number on it, I'd say my confidence that Miami gets him is maybe somewhere around 35 or 40%. Definitely not enough to list Miami as the favorite by any means, but definitely not enough to count Miami out either. It really wouldn't shock me if he committed to the Canes, although I'm definitely not expecting it by any means. But this is also a guy who Miami is going to recruit very, very aggressively all the way to the end. I expect him to be heavily recruited until signing day, until that moment that pen hits paper. Regardless of what happens, I don't expect Mario Cristobal and the staff to be letting up anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Oklahoma probably the favorite here heading into this one as we're 2 days out, but I do give Miami a shot here. So we'll see if they can close. All right, there's another big recruitment that's going to go down on Saturday. The announcement of four-star safety Zaquan Patterson out of Chaminade Madonna High School, the number 3 ranked safety in America. Now, Miami's the leader right now on the recruiting prediction machine, but FSU, Michigan, Auburn, they are also involved, and they've also been pushing hard. So, first of all, what has Miami done to put themselves in Patterson's final group?
Miami's done a pretty decent job recruiting Zaquan Patterson. They've been consistent. He still hears from them pretty regularly. He took a couple of different visits to other schools over the summer, but I've heard that wasn't necessarily so much Zaquan saying that Miami had fallen off, because he visited FSU, Auburn, and Michigan. He visited them twice each unofficially over the summer. He has not taken any official visits yet, by the way, but he visited those 3 schools twice each over the summer. He only visited Miami once, and I've heard that wasn't necessarily because he's losing confidence in the Canes, or that he's loving the Canes less than he was, but more that he felt like he can get down to Miami anytime that he wants, as opposed to having to either make a really long drive to Tallahassee or having to get on a flight to go to places like Auburn and Michigan. So Miami has definitely remained in that mix. I think they've done a fair job recruiting him, but I think that this race is really, really tight. And honestly, heading into Saturday, I think that there's going to be a lot of fan bases that are going to be really nervous and really anxious to see how this decision ends up.
All right. Well, 48 hours out, a lot can change. But as it stands right now, what's your prediction on Zaquan Patterson?
Man, it is really, really, really close. But I'm going to have to say Florida State just by a hair. And I mean that in the narrowest of margins. I've got Florida State just squeaking out there.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. It could be a pivotal week for Miami, right? Steven, if things go right for Miami, and they could, and they land both Stone and Patterson on Saturday, does that change the trajectory of this Miami recruiting class?
Absolutely, it does. I think it does without question. You land a 5-star prospect in David Stone, and then you land a top 100 overall prospect in Zaquan Patterson. I mean, for one, that's going to do a lot for Miami's team recruiting ranking, because right now Miami has 3 top 100 players committed in Josiah Trader, Marquise Lightfoot, and then Kevin Riley, the running back out of Alabama. You're talking about adding 2 more guys into that mix, as well as a 5-star defensive lineman in David Stone. So I definitely think that that's going to have a serious effect on how we look at this class, and I think that it's going to bring a lot of relief to Miami's recruiting room, because of the importance that Miami's placed on defensive line in this class. Now, all of a sudden, you get an absolute game wrecker of a 5-star defensive lineman in David Stone, a guy who you have to think would be a candidate to really play right away, just because he has that kind of skill set at Miami. I think that this really changes the way that this recruiting class would be viewed, just because now you're talking about bringing in 5 guys who could have a potential to really get on the field and make an impact as true freshmen.
Yeah, and like you said, they're guys at positions of need as well. Not only positions of need, but they would be one of the best options at those two spots. So we'll just have to see what happens this weekend. Now, you alluded to it. Miami currently ranked 19th right now, and it's been a relatively quiet summer. Do you think that the Canes can make back that ground in the fall and push for a top 10 class, or even further, maybe even into the top 5 range?
I definitely think so. I think it's possible. Top 10, I think, is obviously easier to get than
Right.
top 5 just because of the obvious. But I think Miami is still going to make some very aggressive recruiting pushes this fall. We just learned the other day that Jeremiah Smith, the #1 overall prospect in the country, is planning or is hoping to get down to 2 Miami football games this fall. That's a prospect they are still very, very aggressively trying to flip. You have to imagine that they're going to get a lot of very significant talent down for some of these marquee home games that they have against Texas A&M September 9th and then Clemson on October 21st. Both of those are going to be huge games, and I anticipate both of those to be really huge recruiting weekends. And I see all of this kind of advancing what's probably going to be a very late December push, kind of like what we saw last year, where Miami just very aggressively tried to flip a lot of really top prospects. They got Colin Sachiampong to flip from Michigan last year. They really pursued a lot of top talent very aggressively in December. I expect them to do the same this year, and I expect them to try to get as much blue chip talent onto Hard Rock as they can for some of these fall games.
All right. Well, big weekend. Things could look drastically different if 2 recruitments go Miami's way this weekend. Stephen Wagner, thank you for dropping by the Inside Scoop and previewing this weekend's big events.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. And remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.